Hello and welcome to this walkthrough. My name is Christina and I will show you our time and attendance module today. Let's first have a look at today's agenda. So our time and attendance module is very helpful, as the name says, to track the work time and the attendance of your employees. As a first step, I would like to show you how easy time tracking works with our virtual time clock. Of course, if you don't want to use that, we have also integrations for physical time clocks, for example, from Datafox or Domacaba, where you can track your work time with that and then just transfer the attendances into the HR solution. But I will show you how the virtual time clock works and how you can use it to track attendances, and also how easily your supervisors and HR managers can correct or add timestamps in case your employees stamp a wrong time or miss an entry entirely. Next, I will give you an overview of the daily and weekly timesheets where you can see the tracked attendances for employees, supervisors, and HR managers. Next, I will show you time accounts. These are very helpful to track overtime, excess hours, etc. in various accounts. Uh, so your employees can collect overtime, for example, and then use it at different points. Then I will show you how the usage of shifts and irregular work hours is covered in our system, how you can create and assign shifts, how to track irregular work hours, and so on. After that, we will have a look at tracking project-related work time on timesheets. So work time is a bit different from the simple attendances, and if, for example, you want to track how much time exactly has been spent on a particular project, that is also easily done in our HR solution, and I will show you how. And then finally, I will show you how easily you can export work hours, either weekly or monthly, for your payroll provider. Let's get started. Let's first have a look at time tracking with the virtual time clock. The virtual time clock is part of the employee's app, and they can just open the app and then click on one button to track their attendance. Click another button to initiate a break, another button to end the break, and another button to end work. It's very simple. It's also possible for HR managers and supervisors to add timestamps in case an employee missed tracking them, or to correct a wrong timestamp in case they clocked in but only an hour after they started work, for example, because they forgot before. Let me show you how this looks in the HR solution. This is what the HR solution looks like from the inside when you are logged in as an HR manager. As you can see, I am in the area HR Hub, which is where you conduct all your daily business as an HR manager. The Recruiting Interactive Dashboard is the first view that opens after you open the HR solution in Standard. If you would like to know more about that, feel free to watch our walkthrough for recruiting and onboarding. Today, I will open this dashboard view and switch over to the virtual time clock dashboard. This is where you track your work time as an HR manager. As you can see, the virtual time clock has a responsive design. What does that mean? I already started my work in the morning, which means I can't click on start work again. It's grayed out. I also can't start remote work, off-site work, or travel, because all of these are logically not possible if I'm already there and started my work. The two options I currently have, what I could do is I can start a break, or I could end my work. Let's say I start a break for now. Then you can see in the list timestamp is immediately added, and the virtual time clock's responsive design changes. So I can't start a break again. I already am on a break, but I can end the break whenever I want to. And I can also still end my work. Let's just end the break for now. It was a very short one in this case. And then you can see it is also added here. If you as HR manager would like to add a timestamp for an employee who forgot to add their own entry, you can also do it in this virtual time clock dashboard. The overview you get here are your own attendances. But you can also create a new timestamp for a different employee because as HR manager you have the right to do so. Let's click on plus new. You can see here that you are in the HR manager view of this, where you can select all kinds of things. Let me just show you for a second this other view, attendance details, because in this view you cannot choose as much. This is the view the employee has if they click on that very same button. So all that they can do is select a type for the work stamp, and that's it. They can choose what they do, and then they save it, and then a timestamp will be added for that exact time. Let me end that break again. A bit of off and on today, but it's fine. Now, let's try this again. As HR manager, you have more options. You can create a timestamp for a different employee. Let's say your colleague forgot to clock in this morning. What you can do is create a timestamp for them. For example, you know that they started work today at 8 in the morning is fine. And then you add their name and optionally also a comment. There you save and close. And this attendance detail is now saved for them in their overview. So that's how easy that works. Now that you have seen how attendances are tracked and if needed corrected, let's have a look at how to track your attendances or how to see how attendances have been tracked. You have an easy overview for daily and weekly timesheets inside the HR solution. Employees can access their own, supervisors can access their own and those of their department, and HR managers can see all attendances that are tracked in the system. Let me show you how this looks. Viewing your attendances as an employee is very easy. As you can see, I'm starting in the employee cockpit this time in the employee sales area, which is the standard version to start with if you're an employee. I have my virtual time clock right here in the first dashboard that opens, as well as already a graphic overview of my attendances. And maybe that's already enough. You just open the app and you see what you need to see. If you would like to drill down to your attendances in a bit more detail, you can go to the left-hand side and in the bottom corner switch to the area My Time and Leave. There you have a few more options to go into more depth. So the virtual time clock dashboard is basically the same one that you already see in the HR manager view that I already showed you. And there you can see how you can add your information. You also have a bit more of a detailed overview for your attendances throughout this whole week and all the data that is there. Attendance gives you an overview of all your attendances this year. The daily summaries drill down to the month, timesheets for the week, and time summaries for this month as a whole. So in this area, you can look at your data in a bit more detail. Let me now switch over to the HR manager perspective again. Because in the HR Manager view, you have a bit more detailed options. If you click on attendance as an HR manager, you do not only see one employee and their data, but you see the data for all of your employees throughout the company. Same goes for daily summaries, which shows you on a daily basis for every employee who tracked that time. The time accounts are a different thing that we will look at later. Time sheets are for the weekly attendances for every single employee, and time summaries give the monthly overview, also for every single employee again. So that's how simple it is. You simply go to the relevant area and you can open any entry to just look at it in detail. And there you have all of the information available for all the time your employees tracked during that time. Now that you know how to track and also view your employees' regular attendances, let's next have a look at time accounts. As the name says, time accounts are virtual accounts that you can configure inside the solution, and they will track a specific type of your employees' work time. For example, you can configure time accounts to track your employees' overtime, either in hours or in minutes, and they will be collected inside the time account, like inside a bucket, for example. And the employees can then take their overtime that they accumulated over a certain time period and use it, for example, for a leave request. You can configure these time accounts to your wishes. For example, you can say that they should only count overtime after a specific threshold has been reached or up until a specific point, and then they can't accumulate more. And they can also be configured to track overtime and excess hours regarding specific international standards. Let me show you what this looks like in the HR solution. By setting up time accounts in the system, you tell the system how exactly to count the time accounts for your employees. I will show you what that looks like. To set up time accounts, we first go from the overview section in the bottom corner to the settings. And there we select the time account configuration in time and attendance. As you can see, there are already some time account configuration templates for this company. And I will just show you one of them to explain what exactly that configuration means. The template is something that you only have to set up one time, and after that it is very quickly connected to each employee you want to use it for. So what you need to decide for your time account is how exactly time should be counted. For example, you need to decide if you would like to count minutes of overtime or hours. And also you have a couple of options of what exactly should be counted. We have overtime in this example, but as you can see, you can use time accounts for a number of different kind of buckets. You can select if you want to use a time unit of minutes or hours, but that needs to correspond with the source field that you selected. And you can specify how long the collection period for that should be, if you want to collect just for a day or for a week or for a month. You can optionally also specify how much overtime should be collected as a maximum. So if employees exceed 150 minutes of overtime per week, more will not be counted. 150 is the maximum threshold. Also, you can specify a threshold as a minimum. For example, if working 60 hours of overtime, 60 minutes of overtime per week is already included in the contract, and counting overtime should already start if employees work more than an hour of overtime per week, then you can also specify that here in the threshold minutes. In this case, nothing like that is filled. Here it's also selected that also negative amounts should be processed. So if employees work less than their allocated work time, they will accumulate negative amounts of overtime during that day. So this is the template that we have. Let's go back now to the overview, because we need to apply that template to the employee's employment term. For that, we open our employees, and then we go to the employee who we want to create that for. By the way, if you would like to know more about the employee file and the employment terms and everything that comes with that, feel free to watch the walkthroughs for the digital personnel file and documents and for the staff administration and automation. Now, to connect a time account configuration, we simply open the employee's employment term. And there we have the option to add a new time account configuration. Now you can either create a specific configuration just for them by filling all of these fields like I showed you in the template, or you can select the template that we just had and save. And then it takes all of the information from the template already in here, and you don't need to change anything. If you make sure that the template is correct and everything is the way you want it to be, you change the status reason from draft to valid. As you can see, all of the fields are locked upon that and nothing can be changed anymore. And once you save and close, this employee has a valid time account configuration and time accounts will be created for them. Our next chapter is the tracking of shifts and irregular work hours. Those are actually two separate topics combined into one. So irregular work hours can be anything really. They can be just irregular hours, as in the employee can work at any time they want, or they can work within specific times but can adjust when exactly they start to work, etc. And shifts, of course, are fixed assigned shifts that start at a certain point, that end at a certain point, and each employee is assigned a shift so that all around the clock, some employee covers a shift for their work time. I will show you both. We will first have a look at shifts as they are used in standard, how to create shifts, how to assign shifts to employees, and to make sure that every shift is covered by somebody. You can also change shifts. For example, if an employee gets sick, you can assign their shift to somebody else, and so on. And then I will also show you how to track irregular work hours, how to set those up in the employee's employment term in case, for example, they work only 4 days a week, or they work alternating Mondays and Fridays and the next week Tuesdays and Thursdays or something, or also how to cover seasonal workers, because that is also a type of irregular work hours if they only work for you, let's say 3 months a year and then not for the next 9 months. All of this can easily be covered in the HR solution, and I will show you how. Regarding irregular work hours, let's first have a look at shifts in the system. You can create shifts inside the settings area, where we will go in a second, and once the shifts are created, you can easily assign them to employees in one click. Let's go from the overview section to the settings again. And inside the settings area on the left-hand side, we go to time and attendance and open the shifts. As you can see, there are already a number of shifts active in the system. So let me just open one and explain to you what it does. As you can easily see, start and end time is assigned, a name is given, and you can also allocate a start time and end time tolerance. What does that mean? That means that within these amount of minutes before and after the assigned start and end time, the employee can stamp in and it will still count towards the shift. So 30 minutes is pretty generous in that regard. For example, in this case, the assigned shift of the employee starts at 8 a.m. and ends at 3 p.m. And if they stamp in, let's say at 7:30 or at 8:30, it will still count towards their shift because the start and end time allocation tolerance is 30 minutes plus and minus. Same goes for the end time. You could, of course, also set that stricter and say that maybe starting 10 minutes early or late is fine, but no more than that. That is up to you. So once your shifts are configured that way, they will stay in the system and you don't need to do anything else. That is a one-time setup, and once all of your shifts are there, they are there. Now, what do you do with them once you have them? They need to be assigned to employees on a regular basis so that employees know which shift to cover. To do that, we go back to the overview area and open on the left side menu the daily summaries. There you can simply open the daily summary for the employee and the day where you would like to assign a shift. And there you can simply pick the shift that you would like to assign. You save and close the record, and that's it. So with these 2 clicks that took half a minute, you have assigned a shift to an employee and they will know they have to work that shift, and that's filled out. In case you need to change that because the employee gets sick and somebody else needs to cover the shift, that's also very easy. You simply go back in again, take that out, open a different employee on the same day, and give the shift to them. And that's it. So that's how quickly you can assign shifts inside the system as needed. Now that shifts are covered, let's next have a look at how to track irregular work hours in the system. This is easily done via the employment term. Let's go down in the left side menu to the administration area and open the employees. I would like to show you a pattern that already exists. We go to the employment terms and wages, and we can see here this is a working student. These often have irregular work hours, as you may know, inside of your company as well. And what you do in this case is in the employment term, you enable the so-called work patterns. This can only be done as long as the employment term isn't valid yet. Check our staff administration walkthrough for more details if you're interested in that. For now, I would just like to show you what these work patterns look like if you enable them. So if they are not enabled, this tab will simply be called work hours, and you can add the amount of hours somebody is supposed to work every day. With work patterns, that gives you more flexibility. Let's have a look at what that looks like. So these work patterns are valid for a long time. In that case, it's a returning student. And if you open this, you can see there's a lot of details. What does all of this mean? So in this case, the student comes back for a recurring pattern sequence based on a weekly basis. That sequence changes every 2 weeks and then repeats itself. There's also some comments to see what exactly that pattern means. Let's break it down a little bit. As we can see, this pattern's first day is Thursday, and the pattern is based on a weekly basis. What does that mean? For a weekly basis, we create 7 pattern details per week, one for every day. And since that 14-day pattern is 14 days long, it means it will repeat itself every 2 weeks. And the first pattern of this template is Thursday. So that means Thursday and Friday are her working days in the first week. Then she does not work for the weekend, comes back in on Monday, then on Thursday, and then she covers a weekend shift and is not there Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, but comes back in again on Thursday and Friday, and then on Monday, and then the pattern repeats itself again over and over. So this is one example of a kind of an irregular, weird pattern that has been made to match this student's class schedule for the semester, and they will work for full time during the semester break, which will be covered in a different template. But with this basic structure, you can cover all kinds of irregular patterns for work days. So, for example, you could encompass a 4-day work week with every Wednesday off, or you could encompass every second weekend working and not during the week, or whatever else may be going on. So this gives you a very flexible option to assign on which days somebody should be assigned work hours and on which days they are off already. That gives you a lot of flexibility for tracking their work time. So far, all of our chapters have covered employees' attendances, from the moment they stamp into work in the morning until they leave in the evening. Let's now have a look at how to track project-related work time, because that is a bit different. The employee is attendant from the very first second they come into work in the morning, but that does not mean that they work from the very first second they come in the morning. They may spend some time on checking emails, on catching up about stuff they missed, on taking a phone call, on organizing their workday, and so on. All of this is valid work time, but it is not related to a specific project. But sometimes you may want to track how much time they spent on working on a project specifically. For example, if you have contracts with somebody external and they pay for a certain amount of work hours provided by your employees. In that case, you want to track how much time your employees spend specifically on that project by that customer. This can also be done inside the HR solution by using the timesheets and creating processes for a certain project you want to track. The employee can then add the amount of work time that they spent within this project, and you can approve it so it is then processed further, for example, for your customer. Let me show you how this works in the HR solution. Now, to track project-related work time, we first need to define the processes that you would like to track. To do that, we go from the overview part to the settings and select business processes on the left-hand side menu. Here you can see that this organization already has some active business processes with which they are tracking their employees' work time. As you can see, there are business processes and then main processes, which are located hierarchically below the main process. For example, within the HR management area, they want to track how much time their HR personnel spends on development, on organization, and on recruiting. Similarly, there are sub-processes for project management, which are planning, execution, controlling, and close. And for the sales area, we have online demonstrations, customer visits, consulting, and administration. These processes need to be connected to the employee's timesheet, and if they are, the tracking is very simple. Let's go back to the main area And remember, we are logged in as an HR manager at this point. So when I go back to my virtual time clock dashboard, you can already see here in the weekly overview for the processes that the HR processes are already connected with my time tracking. And the times that are spent on certain things are simply added here. So for example, it's already added for Monday through Wednesday, and I can also add time for the other work days. For example, on Thursday, I also spent 1 hour on organizing. Then I can just put the amount of minutes here. And another hour on organizing. The first one was development. And the main focus, let's say, is on recruiting. And there I spent a couple of hours. And this is also added here. This is then very simply saved. And then it's added to my timesheet. And the supervisor can approve this as needed. So you can also use this for external processes, as I said before, if you want to track something that you need to bill with a customer, for example, or you can use it like this organization does to simply track internally how much processes take up how much time to develop your business strategies from there. As the last chapter of today's walkthrough, I would like to show you how to export work hours for your payroll provider. In case you pay your employees on an hourly basis, you may want to export all work hours that your employee had inside a week or inside a month for your payroll provider so that they know how much to pay your employee. I can show you how to export those work hours with just a few clicks inside of the solution so that it is not much work for you to just provide your payroll provider with a list that they can then use for payroll processing. To export your employees' work time for payroll, you first need to decide if you want to export them on a weekly basis or a monthly basis. In the left side menu, you can choose. For weekly basis, you select the timesheets, and for a monthly basis, the time summaries. Let's go with timesheets for now. The process is exactly the same, it's just the different time frame covered. Now, as you can see, I have a lot of timesheets here because there are many employees in this company and the timesheets cover a long time. So what I want to do is I want to edit the filters to change the time that is shown here. For example, if I want all the timesheets in February, I will say that I want the start date of this data to be on or after the 1st of February, and I want the end date to be on or before the 1st of March. I need to move myself over to the other side, and then I can click on apply. Move myself back, and then you can already see that it is now filtered by February. And if I scroll down all the way, you can see the first ones start in the first week of February and it goes up until the first week of March. So now that I have applied the filter to cover all that I want, I just select all of the employees because I want to export the timesheets for all of them. You can, of course, also only select a few. And then all you need to do is click on that one button, Export to Excel. And then you have this file that you can open and edit, and you can just forward this Excel file to your payroll provider, and then they have it. That's all the work you need to do. So within 2 minutes, all of your work time for the employees has been exported for your payroll provider, and payroll can be taken care of, and you don't need to do anything else. And that's it for today. Thank you for watching. I hope this walkthrough was helpful for you, and I will see you next time.